Ethiopian armed forces will be attempting a rescue of 108 women and children abducted in a cross-border raid. Ethiopia's prime minister, he's blaming the mass murder of 200 and these abductions on, quote, primitive and destructive forces that kill people here at various times by moving from place to place. You know, when I heard that quote, it was really disheartening because this attack happening over the weekend in the Horn of Africa, in the Gambela region, alongside that neighboring province, it hosts more than 284,000 South Sudanese refugees. And to hear the Prime Minister make such a blasé statement of, oh, this happens from time to time, you know, making this nothing more than a cross-border cattle raid because 2,000 cows were captured along with 108 people, it's disheartening. And the contention is that this hasn't been covered in Western media too much. We've chosen to cover it here. Originally, the story, it aggregated from Reuters and Al Jazeera. And we need to make people care, Elliot. This is a problem. It's happening, and the lack of coverage is disturbing, and the Prime Minister's statement is disturbing.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't characterize it quite like that. I don't necessarily think it was blasé. I think it's a cold reflection of reality, which is jarring to hear. But I wouldn't necessarily want to suggest that it was blasé. I think this is what happens, unfortunately. This is the state of play in the region, and it is that destabilized. And as Margaret says, it's not something that we cover here very often on the lip. We don't, and certainly Western media hasn't covered this hardly at all. It is part and parcel, unfortunately, of the breakdown of the, and the ethnic warring that is going on in this region between these countries. Mm-hmm.
We're seeing, just to touch on that, the ethnic aspect of that, Gambela, 100% ethnic Sudanese. These tribes are people that are primarily refugees. And unfortunately, when we see these cross-border raids like this, 200 murders take place. Unfortunately, this type of tribal warfare, it's all too common. There are medics on the ground. The concern is that Ethiopian forces, they arrive, they're particularly brutal, and they're not effective in stopping these types of cases. Standard tribal warfare for cattle, for water, for land, for farmland. Unfortunately, we have 108 people that have been abducted, many of which are children that are now hanging in the balance of this case.